Welcome to the Becoming Ageless podcast, where we engage in extended conversations to promote a youthful biological age and improved health span. I'm your host, Robynn Fredericks, holistic and integrative health practitioner. Hello, you guys, and welcome to another episode of Becoming Ageless podcast. Today, we are combining two powerful conversations. Originally intended to be part of our motivational series, our guest today surprised me with, her knowledge, her healing, and her receiving a master's in spiritual psychology. So with that, we continue our exploration of the powerful stories of overcoming illness and trauma through self-healing, spirituality, and inner strength. From Catherine Grace O'Connell's remarkable recovery from near-death Lyme disease to empowering women reclaiming their power, this episode showcases the transformative potential of the human spirit and the importance of mind-body wellness in both health span and in achieving remission and life transformation. And today, Catherine Grace shares her secrets of how she did it and how you can too. Enjoy the show. And we are here now live with Catherine Grace O'Connell. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It is such a pleasure to actually finally have you on after knowing you for so many years.
I know.
Is beautiful. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm delighted to be with you. And I'm so delighted that you are here and looking so beautiful and healthy and whole.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And back at you for that. I am so excited to get into everything that you have to talk about from the past to the present and maybe even dipping into the future a little bit, because I know that there is so much there. We still have a major life in front of us and we are both celebrating it, and I'm excited by that. So can we just get into a little bit about, who you are? We know you are an influencer. You've been in the arena for a little while. Can you just kind of touch on who you are, and then we'll dip into the past a little bit?
Sure. So, thank you for asking, and of course, happy to share. And I still, I still find the influencer term cringy. Isn't that funny? I do find it cringy because it's like, oh my god, because it can mean so many things too. And that was honestly never my intention. So, first of all, back up. Basically, it was the summer of 2015 when I started on Instagram, and not long before that, 11/11/14, I had a near death experience. So and before that, if we want to back up, I spent the year before that with late stage Lyme disease. I was diagnosed in spring of 2014, but they told me that I had it for over 10 years. I had 2 cases of spinal meningitis that were 10 years apart. So it was in my brain and had been in my brain for a very long time. So I had been extremely sick. I had been in and out of the hospital. I'd had major surgeries. I had all kinds of crazy things. And with Lyme disease, and especially late stage Lyme disease, oftentimes it goes misdiagnosed for a very long time. So by the time you actually get diagnosed, I literally was a dead person. So they started treatment right away. Within the first month of treatment, I couldn't walk. So I had seizures, full body, for 3 to 8 hours a day. Looked like, an epileptic, but I was fully conscious. And I could not care for myself in any way any longer. At all. So that year I spent mostly bedridden. Late summer, my organs were shutting down. I was in Cedars-Sinai in September, last rites. And honestly, I was consciously, at least as far as my understanding, ready to go. I had suffered a lot. And I'm deeply spiritual, as I think you know, and anybody who follows me on social media knows I'm deeply spiritual. So I really had no fear of death. I have long not only accepted it, but I guess in some ways, thought that's the easier path, because I understand up there is beautiful and lovely and loving. And down here, I'm like, you humans are kind of crazy. I've been through a lot of trauma and abuse, and I'd suffered a lot. And I was like, okay, my suffering, I'd kind of like it to end on the physical. So I thought I was ready to go. Well, 2 months after that near-death experience, 11/11/14, and basically I left my body, and I can go into that story. It's a pretty crazy story, but in the end, obviously I'm still here, and I actually was given a choice to stay or go. So the vortex of light was open, and I was asked if I wanted to stay here or go into the light. Sure. And there's a crazy story around that, but in any case, I chose to stay, but I have to say, I was still very confused. That choice really came more from thinking of my children than it was anything about me. Because as far as I was concerned, I was ready to go.
Mhm.
But when I stayed, and it wasn't like all of a sudden so many stories like this. I went through the light and I was healed. No, 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 no. Basically my whole body lit up and I was walking outside of myself and I was like a ghost. I could feel nothing. My whole body was weightless. I couldn't move anything. Like I'd move it, but there was no feeling. Like it wasn't like I could lift an arm because there was no arm. It was literally 100% air. And it was like out of Ebenezer Scrooge, my whole body lit up and I watched myself leaving myself. And I looked in my eyes, I was gone. Like your soul, you can see your soul through your eyes. There was nothing there. So I was pretty shocked by the whole thing. There's more to that story, but the bottom line was I was here, and it took me a little while to really process what I'd gone through, and then more importantly, to go, okay, I guess there's a bigger reason for me to be here. I guess I don't know what that is right now, but I am going to trust, the universe, God, source, and follow the breadcrumbs and start really living my life in a different way. And in order to do that, I really had to change my mindset and heal myself. Now, the doctors had given up. They said there was nothing more they could do. I was going to die. So when I survived this, there wasn't really anything in Western medicine that could help me at that point. So I had to do it myself, really, with some support in there, in a healing energetic. But it really was going into the trauma, the root of the illness, which had taken hold a long time before, and the way energy works. If you heal the root, it's interesting. It's a metaphor for Lyme. Lyme is a corkscrew bacteria under a microscope, identical to syphilis. So it's like this, and it screws into all your tissues and organs, and it proliferates over time. So I had to heal the root. When you heal the root of an illness, it energetically it's like the genie in the bottle. The illness went back into the bottle. So I really had to make a decision. I was no longer going to believe in Lyme disease, believe in that this had any power over me, that I knew that I could heal because I knew the root of the illness was trauma and abuse. And it's not the things that happen to me and the things that happen to us out there that matter most. What matters is the story we wrap around it and what we take it to mean. And so the things that had happened to me in my life, starting very early on and through my marriage, I took to mean things about me that were so disempowering that I had literally made myself down to nothing, squished myself to be really barely physically, present in this life. And so it was a metaphor for what I was going through. And so once I healed that, and it's an ongoing process, but for the most part, really healed the root of the illness. There's no more Lyme. It's gone. And I didn't just have Lyme. I had all these co-infections, crazy things. All of it is gone.
That is amazing. And you guys, there's our podcast. I'm kidding, totally kidding. There are so many avenues to go there. Um, okay, so you had meningitis first.
Yes. So when I was married, I had a lot of really serious illnesses, but I had spinal meningitis during my marriage. And then 10 years later, I was in my master's program and ended up, in the hospital. And so when you have spinal meningitis, I mean, obviously I didn't go through what you went through, but I can imagine that there's the brain swelling. So I wanted to die. I felt my head was going to explode, literally begging to die. The pain is excruciating.
Yeah.
So, both times it was viral meningitis. But what my doctor who finally diagnosed me, because I had been in and out of hospitals and doctors' offices for so many years, and they would look at me because I looked like this. You look, that's in your head, and literally, I guess it was, but it wasn't really. Yeah, I wasn't believed. So, when they diagnosed me with the second case of spinal meningitis, the chance of that is 1 in 14 million. So the doctor that I was with now was the doctor of last resort, and she treated a lot of Lyme disease patients. I didn't know that's what I had, but the first time I sat across from her, she said, pretty sure you have Lyme disease and you've had it for over 10 years.
Ugh.
So I'd had West Nile the first time when I had the first case of spinal meningitis. So again, it's in this, we're talking about Lyme disease and all these illnesses, but really it's what I went through is applicable to anyone because I really talk in terms of, chronic illness and chronic wellness. And I don't know everything about, anything, any other illness, but what I do know is oftentimes we have a lot of power inside of ourselves to heal ourselves.
Yes.
And I talk a lot about not mental illness, but mind wellness, because I was not well in here. I had given up and I had a lot of dark thoughts. Amazing how much energy comes through. So I had to take control over my mind. And I think that's relatable because the mind body connection, I mean, it is amazing. But the truth is, if we have the power to make ourselves ill from our thoughts and our beliefs, and what we take situations to mean about us, we have the power to heal. And that's really where this is applicable to anyone struggling with anything in their lives, particularly anxiety, depression. I was diagnosed with PTSD in my marriage. So I had a lot of trauma that I went through, and I did not understand the buildup of that over time when you were really not addressing it. I was raised in a family where it was all shut down. So you put that happy face on and you pretend to the extent that I was so disassociated with my physical body and really not understanding what I was doing. Trauma happened to me, abusive things happened to me, horrible things happened to me, but it was what I was doing to myself inside of myself. And I'll share one story that is really people can kind of grab onto. So my mom, when I was growing up, I grew up in a very abusive home. My father was an alcoholic. A lot of abuse. I was sexually abused. So my mom's mantra when I was growing up, she would say it every single day. My stomach's in knots, my stomach's in knots, my stomach's in knots. And literally so what happens is these mantras, these things that we tell ourselves over and over have immense power. They go right down into our subconscious, right? And when she was saying that, there's emotion attached to it, right? So you've got the energy now on top of the word that has all this power, but it's all repressed. So I'm not conscious of it. I'm not conscious that she was saying it all the time. So now I'm saying it all the time without realizing it. So again, in my marriage, my stomach, my colon twisted into a knot, cut off my circulation, and I almost died. So like literally into a knot.
Wow.
Yeah. So what the doctor said, they rushed me into emergency surgery. 90% of people die in that condition because there was no circulation in my body. And it was really serious. And my ex-husband had left me to die. So crazy stuff. So, and I had that happen twice. But in any case, I realized literally it didn't take me long to realize, oh my God, that was what my mother said over and over. Like, it's virtually impossible for your colon to go from here to here and tie into a pretty little knot in there. And it's crazy. So I really started realizing back then the power of what we tell ourselves and these mantras that we don't realize are going through our minds and subconscious. For me, that was decades. And look at what that can do, but look at the power we have. And it's really pretty wild stuff. So I focus a lot on mind wellness and the power we have to transform our lives from the inside out.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that is just so amazing to hear all of this. And girlfriend, we can relate on so many different areas. um, but you are okay, so you are now 69. And I mean, I'm sorry, not 69.
Not yet. Not yet. You did you leveled me up. It's that 70 thing. It's that 70. You said, okay,
I know, right?
There you go.
I'm about to turn 59, so I just automatically put you there. Okay, so you are 62.
62. I'll be 63 on 7/7. Yep, July 7th.
There you go. There is, oh my gosh, Catherine, there are just so many things I want to touch on here. It's our end goal of where we're getting is to help people to realize that they're not alone in suffering And if you don't mind talking about some of this, I know it's hard. I know it is so hard.
Yeah, I was surprised. It's amazing, but it's a good thing because then I start going, "Oh, there's something else unhealed in there." I mean, really, that's what that you've triggered something inside of me that I'm like, "Wow, I've been talking about this for a very long time." So sometimes things come up and sometimes they don't. But I go, "Okay, there's a pain point in there." That's really what that is.
And we all have them. I mean, if you're beyond 10 years old, you probably have suffered some kind of abuse somewhere, whether it was in your home or a bully in school, or maybe you were the bully. I mean, things happen. Or girlfriend just looks at you like, "What are you wearing?" I mean, things happen and then they just progress and get harder as we get older. So by our age, we've been through some stuff. Um, One thing I really want to touch on is something that, you guys who are listening, you guys all know that I talk about this a lot. And that is the power of our thinkings. Because I am spirit, soul, body. I'm a believer
Mhm.
in this whole entire computerized machinery and flesh kind of person. We are three parts. And you can't deny one part while trying to feed the other part. It doesn't happen. We have to pay attention to all three parts. And there's a lot of new evidence out there that, well, we've all been, most of us from back in the 90s, some in the 80s are very much into the whole positive thinking and being optimist and all of this kind of thinking. But it was just like, oh, we're sending these energetic waves out. And I love that. I was totally in there. But we now know. And I love it when science comes in and meets things because
I am all about the science,
I
not on the science
know.
alone.
I
I'm all about the
know, right?
science.
It's like we have proof. And it's now that, our brain doesn't actually have these physical eyes. So our brain only receives the information that we are telling it or that we're getting it from the outside sources over and over and over. Like you said, it's that mantra that's feeding you. And our brain then sends that information down to our cells, where our cells create in the very layman terms, it creates a blueprint for our DNA. And the stem cells, the whole entire process just starts going to work to create that blueprint. So as you're sitting here hearing the words and telling yourself over and over again, my stomach is in knots, your body's having to do that blueprint to make that actually happen. I mean, as you said, that doesn't normally happen. You didn't get it because you ate a potato chip. You got it because of your thinking. And that's powerful to me. And so if we can just now jump ahead, you saw the lights, you had the decision to make, you chose to stay here. Now, I think I already know this answer, but if we could like really kind of make it clear to people, when you woke up after you made that decision, were you miraculously healed and you could just get up and walk out of the hospital because you're just like, I'm here, I made that decision. Did you have to work at it?
Yeah, that was confusing for me. That was really confusing because I was literally in the same condition. So I'm bedridden. I can't walk. I can't literally do anything. I mean, we're talking not go to the bathroom. I can't give myself a bath, a shower, anything.
Right.
So I am 100% dependent when I had been really independent. And so what happened was it was a process. So this near death experience was 11/11/14. Spring of 2015, my daughter came over. And what happens is, for many people, will be able to relate to this. It's like two steps forward, one step back, or two steps forward, three steps back, whatever.
Yeah.
Up and down process, right? And that's a really frustrating process. So I can get better and feel a little bit more empowered and like ready to kind of try some new things, maybe start believing in myself, but I would slip back. And so with spring of 2015, and I could walk around the block and that was it. I couldn't do really a whole lot. I was 30 pounds last. So I'm 5 foot, almost 5'9". I was 95 pounds, 97. It's like
Wow.
really, really, really thin. And so really frail and fragile, no energy. So it was really, again, let's go back to the mind. I had depression before this. And so when I got Lyme disease, went into despair. And so it was climbing out of despair. Despair is a giant black hole. And so, and I was isolated. So for so much of that time, so a lot of people with chronic illness can understand this, especially in the Lyme community, that so what happens in our brain when we have depression, we have one thing going on in our brain. And then when we're isolated, isolation causes depression. So then you go into despair. Despair is like, the dark night of soul that feels like it's never going to end and you're never going to get out. So that's really, I was slipping back into that space. And my daughter came over and she just wanted to shake me. And, she said, Mom, what would you do if you were well? And I blurted out, I'd travel the world. And I looked around like, who said that? I literally, it came from a different place because I was feeling still very discouraged. I'm like, not understanding. Okay, you saved me. Why am I here? Show me something good. And so I was like, wow. And literally, that was a life changing. We have these pivot points in life, right? There was a life changing moment. And in that moment, so people with Lyme disease are their own kind of kooky worst, I guess. They do some bad things to themselves in that what we do is we spend our time, most of us, on the computer searching for other people's stories and desperately searching for answers. And what's the next, protocol out there that I can go on that's going to save my life? And so you get trapped in this world of illness.
Right.
And I knew in that moment that there was a deeper part of myself that had dreams and really wanted to live this higher life. So in that moment, I made a decision. I was like, Lyme disease, that's it. It's over. I am never going to give you one more ounce of my energy. And literally, my daughter brought me like a travel bucket list, and I started like focusing on these dreams and making these dreams come true. Now, again, I could only walk around the block. I couldn't travel the world, but it didn't matter because our reality changes in here first, in here, and then in here. So in that moment, I have never thought of Lyme disease since that time. And in the world of Lyme, that's very, very unusual. Most people get trapped in the illness. And a lot of people, like I spoke to 200 people with Lyme disease the next year trying to help them. So many people get attached to the illness because it's been very stigmatized and judged. So they're like, I'm never letting go. And it's like, okay, wait, I think of chronic illness as a dark black circle. Chronic wellness is a big circle of light. So if you have a tiptoe in the dark circle, you are energetically feeding the illness. So I knew at that point there's no intersection between the two. If there is, you're feeding that light darkness. So I knew that I had to jump out of that circle of illness, chronic illness, and go into chronic wellness. And so I was like, okay, I'm done. I will never think of Lyme disease. I literally took all my protocols. I don't recommend this out there. I threw them in the garbage, everything. I mean, talking thousands of dollars worth of supplements, all these things, because they weren't working anyway. And I knew it was on a different level that I had to heal. And I knew in that moment that I was going to taste joy and I was going to start, believing in the universe and start following these breadcrumbs and start putting myself out there. So it was only a couple months later, my daughter's like, okay, we need to get you an Instagram and we need to and she started taking her phone out and taking pictures of me. All my clothes are falling off, but my love was passion for fashion. So she said, let's get you dressed and let's take some pictures. That's how it all started. At that point, this is summer of 2015, July. And, I was in what's Instagram, what's a hashtag. I'd not really been on social media. I was a very shy, introverted person. So it was very difficult for me to do that and to jump. Are you freezing? Am I freezing?
I think you are, but I think okay.
Okay. It's okay. Okay. I saw myself like, so that was a huge transition for me. But one thing that I learned through this process is so we have a north node it's actually a point in our astrology. And we have a south node and a north node. So we know our sun sign. You and I are both cancers, right? But the north node is really important for women at midlife and beyond. So the majority of the first part of our lives, we follow the south node. That is our conditioning. That is who we're told to be, taught to be, should be. At midlife and beyond, there's actually an astrology point in our horoscope called the north node. And that north node is an opposite. If you look at the sign, my north node sign is a Leo. It is all about public, like being out there in a public way, the spotlight on you, having a voice, like shining, the fierce lion versus like Candace the crab who's like under here. So it was understanding that I'm supposed to step into the spotlight, which was terrifying for me, absolutely terrifying, but life-changing.
Right.
So, literally, it was that I made a decision to heal. I made a decision to be well, and I honestly that was, like I said, 2015 in March, and I've never thought of Lyme disease since, and everything is gone. So, our thoughts have power, our belief systems have power, focusing on illness has power, realizing when we're feeding the darkness, feeding the illness, feeding the shadow, feeding and it doesn't mean I am like I still have negative thoughts. I still have things I have to work
You're
on daily.
still human.
We're human. We're spiritual beings, these human suits. And so, but it's tapping into the spiritual sides, elevating inside of us, and realizing that all of that always comes from our ego, always comes from our, smaller human self, not our expanded, you know, um, soul and our heart that really has all our knowing and our calling. So I started following this higher calling, and I would go back to that influencer thing. I did not get on Instagram with the idea to influence anyone. First of all, I want women to have influence over themselves.
Right.
I just want to provide inspiration and empowerment to help them understand the power that they have inside of themselves to transform their lives. And change is temporary, transformation is permanent. So when we think of that butterfly, that metamorphosis, we have many metamorphoses in our lives. But once we keep, transforming at a higher level and following those callings, so at midlife and beyond, there is a higher calling.
Yeah.
And we are really to let go of that small self and really step into that much bigger self that has a much higher purpose.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. I want to read something really fast from your website. And I've got two different things to read to you. Um, you say our attitudes, beliefs, energy, patterns, and behaviors in the present determine our future. What we think and believe directly affects the way that we age. And then you go on to say, talking about the midlife woman, she is the epitome of elegance and grace combined with a healthy dose of moxie. She is the ultimate phoenix rising. And so, of course, I've always used the word Phoenix Rising with you. We've all used that in the past, but I'm like, what does that really mean anyway? So I asked Google for the definition. Of course, because we all use Google. And Grace, or Catherine, I love this. Phoenix is a mythical golden bird associated with renewal and regeneration, rising from the ashes of its previous life. It's a symbol of hope, of life, and of better things to come. It's born from the knowledge and experience of difficult times and challenging circumstances. Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
Beautiful. And yeah, hello. I'd like to be that.
Well, you
Light
are
me
that.
up.
You are that. You obviously are the phoenix rising. And think about that. It is so beautiful and so powerful. And that's part of like Forever Fierce, the logo that is the phoenix rising. And so that's what we are. And think about it. We can't rise from anything but the ashes. And the ashes really are it's the most beautiful metaphor for what we were just talking about. The ashes are the smaller self falling away, and the phoenix is really the true self emerging that's always been there.
Mhm.
We all have this beautiful phoenix inside, and we have been conditioned, especially as women, to cover that up and to make ourselves small. And, we're not going into politics and the patriarchy and all that stuff, but, honestly, it is a cultural conditioning. And ageism is another part of that cultural conditioning where we've been conditioned to be invisible. And we need to make ourselves visible. I mean, a phoenix calls right for visibility, and the ashes are just that part that can serve us anyway. So I thank you so much for sharing that. And I really do believe that. I believe that we have immense power, especially the older we get.
We do.
Combine wisdom and life experience, and it's incredibly beautiful. And yeah, we have more wrinkles because hopefully we've smiled more and laughed more and cried more. And, these things all, I got plenty of wrinkles, but I also have a lot of wisdom and a lot of character built over these decades.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am beyond an optimist. I'm an optimist plus.
Mm.
I am not a glass half full. To me, somebody says my glass is half full. I'm like, Here, let me fill it a little bit more. I am a glass overflowing kind of person, and I want to look at situations that way. And if I can't see them that way, there's no way that glass is going to get full. I kind of just like move them out of my life. And I know you're very much like that too. And I think that it's just some way that we need to go into life. And with all the different researchers, scientists, doctors, people that I talk to, I have a lot of people who have studied evolution, and they feel that with all of the studying that they've done on the human body, that the human body was only made to get to a certain age so that we can procreate. Once we've done that, there's really no use for us. And so everything just begins to die off. Well, scientifically, that might be what happens. I don't know. I have not studied this in the lab, but with my glass overflowing, I choose to look at it a different way. I see it, biblically speaking, it says when we are a child, we think as a child. So as a child, I don't know how to run in this body. I'm out there experimenting and trying to figure out who in the heck I am. And as I move into adulthood, where evolution says you're supposed to die off, evolution is saying, "Ugh, I'm tired, man. You've got to start taking control." And different parts of us start falling off at different times. They start declining, even our mitochondria, everything begins declining at a certain age, but it's all at a different age. And so we need to start learning how to take hold of these different pieces. And I think we have, all of this time to start building ourselves up and our spirits and our soul. And then comes a time that we have to start paying attention to the body, because the body can no longer do it all by itself. It can still do some, but it still needs our help. And as we move in and we get all of those pieces together and we start feeding the body, I mean, sure, eventually we're all going to pass away, hopefully in our sleep, hopefully playing tennis or hiking or whatever we want to the day before. But it should be done in a healthy manner. It should just be that, it's time for us to go home, and not because something is removing us from this earth. And, I truly believe that you are here for a reason. I am here for a reason. And we have a message to get out there. And I was shocked, honestly, Catherine, as I was like going back through your website and your bio and everything, to find out that you are not just this pretty face that went through a horrible trauma that figured some things out. You have a master's in in spiritual psychology. Did that come before or after Lyme?
It was during.
During. Okay.
I actually was diagnosed with Lyme when I was going through my master's program, so I had to take a
Okay.
break. And but I did finish after. It took a little while. So I started studying really spirituality 30 plus years ago now. I had a really traumatic experience, a lot of traumatic experiences in my life. Like you said, there isn't just one thing. But when I had my daughter, I almost died. So the OBGYN had left the low portion of the placenta in me. So you have this placenta and you actually have something that's attached to it. So usually they go in and they search and make sure they get it out. Well, he didn't. So 2 weeks later, I started hemorrhaging. I was out with my little baby in the little snuggly thing back in the day, walking my dog out there. And I'm this summer, it's July in Chicago, and I had shorts on, and all of a sudden I felt like this wet stuff on my legs. And I had a baby 2 weeks ago. So I looked down and there's blood gushing down my legs. And what I remember distinctively in that moment is inside my head going, "Oh my God, what did I do now?" Like that's the
Turnaround.
abused brain. It's my fault. I did something wrong. Now, my ex-husband was on the golf course, of course. He had taken 14 days off paternity leave, was golfing every day, never helped me for a minute. That's a whole nother story. But in any case, so I was alone with the baby. And I went into my house at the time. This is before cell phones. I didn't have a cell phone. It was like corded phones. So, because this was 1991. And I remember going upstairs and there's blood all over the stairs. And I go in and I took Maddie, my little baby, out and put her in the crib. And I went to pick up the phone to call my dad. And I called my mom, but my dad answered. And I said, "I am hemorrhaging like severely." And my father hung up on me. Click. And I'd asked for my mom first, and of course, she's like, "She's not here," and hung up on me. And that tells you a lot there about what I came from.
Mm.
So again, I learned a lot later on what I took that to mean. I took that to mean that even when I'm dying, my family is not going to care about me. Nobody cares about me. So my daughter was crying at that point. I was nursing her, and I went into shock. I went and grabbed her, held her, put a towel between my legs, and laid on the floor nursing her to die. So
Wow.
yeah, crazy stuff. And again, I'm not conscious of what I'm doing, but later on I learned that I was committing suicide
Right.
because I believed that nobody cared about me. Um, so eventually what happened was, this is like, touched by an angel. So it wasn't long after that I hear the front door of my house open, and my brother walked in, and he lived an hour away. So it wasn't like he was around the corner.
Yeah.
And he goes, Gert is my nickname. Hey, Gert. Hey, Gert. And I'm like, I'm up here. And he goes, oh my God. And he sees blood everywhere and comes rushing up the stairs and sees me on the floor like this and rushed me to the hospital. And so that's when I found out what had happened. And they had to do a DNC, which is basically going in and scraping that uterus. And I had had this thing in me for 2 weeks. So I was severely infected and no anesthetic. And the pain, I mean, I was screaming bloody murder for like 3 hours while they did this procedure. My husband, of course, there. And so after that, I had had a very long time in the stirrups when I had my daughter, and a very difficult time. And then I was in the stirrups again with this procedure. So I came home that night, and I got up in the middle of the night to nurse Maddie, and my leg went out on me, and all the ligaments were torn between the delivery and this procedure. I had torn everything. So now I have a newborn. I'm obviously in severe pain. I now can't walk, and I have to be on crutches, and I have a husband who is not there at all. So I eventually, like, I'm going back to work to Northwestern Hospital. It's an hour away from me. This whole thing was pretty much a nightmare trying to nurse crutches, and it was crazy. So the Northwestern could do nothing. I'm literally with a newborn, crutches. I am by myself. I can't function really, and I'm in a lot of pain. And so my dad at the time had an acupuncturist slash chiropractor, and I always thought my dad was kind of nuts. So I'm like, okay, because he had, and that's a whole other story. So I was, what have I got to lose? I'll go. I had no experience with this. And so 2 sessions later, crutches are gone. I'm walking, and I'm like, whoa, what is this? And that is when I took a deep dive and started. I'm an energy worker, trained in all kinds of things. I started studying everything I could get my hands on. And I'd lost a baby after that. Again, another deep dive, and went even deeper into spirituality and studying. I've been trained with some of the top people in the world, trained in all kinds of modalities. But I did that so I could experience all these things, not to be necessarily proficient in one area, but I started understanding the power we had inside of ourselves, and to understand energy, and to understand how I could try these things, see what works for me, maybe share them with others, see what would work for them, to give ourselves that power to heal ourselves. So by the time I had Lyme disease, I'd amassed at that point, 25 years in studying spirituality, being trained in all these modalities, and going in to get my master's in spiritual psychology, which was really, it's the psychology of the soul. And everything we learned was experiential. So we did all these different processes. Many of them I used to heal myself. Again, learning to trace the root of the root of the illness, and the root of things going on in your lives that have no conscious connection to something that happened earlier. The inner child, all these things that we have inside of ourselves. We carry all kinds of wounds, and especially by the time we're at midlife and beyond. But the thing is, we don't have to heal in a linear way. We can go and heal those, inner wounds and triggers. And every time we get triggered, the world's a mirror. Everybody, that triggers you, that just means, okay, time to look inside and go, there's something inside of me that needs some healing, that's calling for healing. So I learned to do that in many different ways. And I used all of those tools. I pulled that giant toolbox out, including my master's in spiritual psychology. And I learned to heal myself and transform myself on many levels. It's an ongoing process. I still have to pull those tools out. I continue to add new tools into my toolbox, but it is amazing the power that we have. There's nobody that knows you better than you. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so That's a long answer to your question.
What was the question? No, no, totally good. Um, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's you guys all know that I went through, TBI and things like that. That's why it keeps saying that we can relate in different areas. One of the things that I found fascinating with one of the practitioners that I spoke to, major scientist and PhD himself, and he was saying how the mitochondria, of course, they've been here since, at the beginnings of time. And they are really, part of the focus in our entire body, is physically speaking. And it was really interesting because he said when you go through, any kind of major trauma in the physical body, that, nature does its selection to decide, no, should you, shouldn't you, what should be going on. And he said if the mitochondria has decided to keep you around, you are supposed to be here and you're probably going to arise even better than you were before. And that was powerful to me. And that, oh my gosh, over and over and over again with you, that is powerful to, and look at you today. That is the tremendous part.
Right
Touch
back
me.
at you, right back at you. You would never look at you and think that you had gone through anything other than this beautiful, easy life with this loving husband. And everything is all, just
That's all it is, sunshine of roses.
right, right, exactly. But it served you in so many ways and really forced you to rise again, that phoenix rising. And again, there's multiple phoenixes rising through our
Absolutely.
lives at so many points. So
Absolutely.
I hear you. And I'm a science geek, so we've learned so much about everything from the ability to neuroplasticity, the way our cells work, telomeres, all kinds of things. And the science shows us that if you have a fear of aging, you take 7 years off your life. I mean, it's crazy. And we can change our DNA. And not only can we change our DNA, when we change our thinking and our belief systems, we start altering our DNA and we alter the generations behind us. I mean, and again, a lot of this is science based. So it is amazing the power we have literally to transform our lives at the cellular level. And you talked about trauma. Have you ever heard of Dr. Peter Levine and the book Waking the Tiger?
I've heard the book, but I've not read it.
Amazing. So when you talk about trauma,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what the way Dr. Peter Levine created something called SE somatic experiencing, and it helps you basically to release the energy of trauma that's held inside. So what happens is when we go through a traumatic experience, and like you said, it can be a car accident, it can be childhood, sexual abuse. There's no trauma awards. It's all really processed the same inside of ourselves. So when we go through something trauma, that means it's bypassing our conscious memory and it's now being subconsciously repressed, going into our subconscious. So he talks about in that book, if you were out in, let's say, Africa and you're at a safari and you're watching, there's a baby giraffe out there, and all of a sudden this lion goes running after and grabs the baby giraffe by the tail. Now that giraffe is like trying to get away. Let's say the giraffe gets away, probably unlikely, but let's say the giraffe gets away. You're going to watch that giraffe go into a clearing. And when it feels safe, it's going to shake vigorously. When it shakes vigorously, it is dispelling the energy of that traumatic incident and it has no memory. So
Wow.
of that's how they're built that way, wired that way, unlike humans, where when we have a traumatic incident, we've already pushed it down into our subconscious. Now our cells are holding that. Think of the energy it takes. Now think of the energy it takes if you had a trauma happen when you were a little child and you've been holding that energy in your cells the whole time. So humans are not wired that way. That's how we hold that stuff in. But somatic experiencing, I went through a lot of sessions of this to help me heal. I would have seizures when I had these sessions because I had been holding in so much energy in my cells from the trauma. So you can watch it, they're like electrical seizures. So it's amazing when we start understanding and then you go, whoa, I've been holding all this in. And look at the energy that that took to hold that in and the way that impacts our ability to heal. So, Yeah, there's a lot to be said around trauma and also our ability to heal that trauma and to let it go and release it. And also, once you understand that when you're going through traumatic experiencing to traumatic experiences in your life, to realize that you're going to repress that. So you need to get that out. And there's ways to do that.
Okay, really, really interesting stuff. I d- can you explain the difference between soul and spirits?
The soul and spirit. Well, the spirit.
Google just answered saying, I don't know.
So basically, we are physical beings. So we both on this page that we are spiritual beings here in these human suits. When we come into being, into life, when we take that first breath, we have a soul that has now come into our physical body. When we leave this earth, what leaves is this soul. So when I had the near death experience and the vortex light open, for most people, you have 30 seconds to 1 minute, and your soul is pulled out of your body. And that is why a lot of people, near death experiences will talk about like being above the physical body. That's their soul. Their soul has gone out. So when somebody dies physically, that soul has gone. So our physical bodies hold our soul. Now, our spirit our soul is connected to our spirit. So we all are spiritual beings. And at different levels, obviously, because it depends. Now we want to take the mind body connection here. And our soul is one thing. Every single human being has a soul. Our spirit is really our connection to the divine, our higher self.
Mhm.
So think about that like a wire to the other world. Our soul, our physical beings, we are here as physical beings, but we cannot operate in the spiritual realm without our soul and our connection to spirit. So our soul allows us to connect to spirit. Spirit is source, where we came from, whatever it is that you believe in, this higher self, this divine self that we all have. But our soul, our spirit lives on forever. Our soul lives on forever. Our connection to the spirit lives on forever. Our physical body is temporary. That is the ashes, right? That fall away. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I know that's a question that so many people, different people always ask. And some people are like, oh, I read a book today, so I fed my soul. I prayed, so I fed my spirit. And I ate well, so I fed my body. So I did everything right, right? It's like, um,
Well, I mean, and we all have this connection to spirit, this higher. We're all come from it. So maybe that's a better way to say it. We all the soul inside of ourselves, but we all come from spirit, from the Big Bang, right? We all share this part of spirit inside of ourselves, but we also have this soul, and our soul allows us to connect to the divine, to the big source out there of everything.
that's a beautiful way of putting it. Okay, so you had touched on that there are steps that we can take. I have totally moved you from out of the motivational guru into the scientist because I'm up your master's in spiritual psychology. So so are you able to give us some of those physical steps if somebody's listening right now and they have gone through a trauma or they're just stuck in midlife? Maybe it was just menopause, maybe it was abuse, maybe it was just I've lost who I am, my kids are gone, and I'm no longer mom, who am I? A lot of people are just facing this I don't know, or even just down to, talking to a lot of you guys are midlifers. Maybe you're at 60 years old, 70 years old, 50 years old, and you're just like, what's next for me? I may as well just give it up and just relax in a chair and drink lemonade and watch Netflix. What are some of those steps that a person can take
Sure.
to help them to that next level?
Thank you for asking. So obviously it depends, what you're bringing to the table here. Some people are coming with lots of trauma. And in that case, I say, work with a professional really to help you. And I think we all know to some extent when we can do this ourselves and when we need some help in doing that. And I do that as well. I'm working with people right now, and I'll, take them through this process to help them find that energetic core. But as far as practical steps, I will tell you what I took out of my toolbox to help me that anybody can use.
Mhm.
So, Louise Hay and Hay House. So she is wonderful. And obviously, she is the creator of mirror work. And, we talk about really life is a mirror, and it's not always a direct mirror. Sometimes it's a funky reflection. But in any case, I used mirror work to help me to heal. She used it to help herself heal from cancer in her 50s. And that's when she launched Hay House. So she started understanding the power of affirmations and of the mirror. So when you are doing mirror work, so easy. We all have a mirror, right? We get up in the morning and we brush our teeth and we have these rituals. So a wonderful ritual that I created during this time was to use getting up in the morning and going in and brushing my teeth, and I'm looking in that mirror. And mirror work is really connecting to the deeper part of you. So you look into the mirror, you look into your eyes, but again, you are not looking at the human self. You're looking at the deeper self, and you are saying to yourself, like I would say, I am beautiful. I love you. You are wonderful. You are healthy. You are happy. You are whole. And I would literally be looking into my eyes, and I will forewarn you, if you've never done this initially, it's really awkward and you want to turn away,
Right.
especially when somebody who's continued to say not so kind things to yourself. And also, the you, when you say I am versus the you. So the I am goes to the root. So the I am is you're speaking to really that soul, that divine part of yourself. The you, when you're saying you, like I see you, you're actually speaking to all those younger children inside of
Oh,
you.
wow.
Yeah. So there's a different, and there's also, if you go through the chakras, there's different things to say, like I am, I feel, as you go up the chakras. So there's different things that send different messages to yourself. But I highly recommend the you. For most of us, we're walking around not with a wounded inner child, wounded inner children, and usually they're running amok inside of us. So if you start by looking in that mirror, and it's easier oftentimes to say you versus I, and you think of that because that younger self is hearing you. And when you heal those younger selves, it's amazing what the transformation of your life. So I still use that to this day. You can also put little sticky notes on your mirror to say those things, and then just so when the minute you see those and you start brushing your teeth, you start. So what happens is your subconscious picks that up, and you're automatically saying those things to yourself day in, day out through sleep, and it works miracles. It did for Louise Hay, and it did for me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny because I do that when I get up in the morning. And it's so funny because I never knew the difference between the I and the you. But there are most mornings I get up and I'm like, I am, I look right in the mirror, right in my eyes. And it's like, I am ageless. I am beautiful. I am, worthy. And every once in a while, I will find unknowingly to myself until it comes out of my mouth, I say, you are beautiful. And thank you for showing up for me today. And it's like, where did the you come from?
Yeah.
And it's I. And then sometimes you have that little fight in your head of like, should I have said I? You? What? And so thank you for that. And somehow, some way inside, it's just when you start getting in touch with yourself, it just starts happening naturally, I guess, with the I's and the U's.
It's
That
really
one's beautiful.
powerful. It's really powerful, and if you do it when you're brushing your teeth, you obviously ritualize. The idea is, okay, I don't feel okay in the morning unless I brush my teeth, and now you've combined that and you're adding it to ritualize it. And I'll give you one more step. If you take your toothbrush, let's say you're right-handed, you put it in your left hand, you're now accessing the other side of the brain. So it actually even wires it differently. So if you want to really fool around and play with this, you can brush your teeth with the opposite side that you normally do, and you will start actually reinforcing that in an even more powerful way, not just in your subconscious, but in your brain too.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some pretty
Yeah.
crazy stuff there.
I'll have to try that. I have tried switching to my left hand to brush my teeth, but I didn't make any affirmations while I did it, but I can't say I made a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You will, and you will. So, and then the second tool that I will give you that is, again, practical tools that may not sound practical, but they really are, and they really work for anyone, is the back to the mantra thing. When I realized, really the power of mantras, and mantras, like a true mantra, if you're talking about Sanskrit, it is a sound vibration. It is not language. It's not an affirmation that I say, I am beautiful, whatever. That is an affirmation. A true mantra is a sound vibration. It is a mantra means mind vehicle. So you are basically taking your mind and overriding that mind when you use a mantra so that your mind doesn't now grab onto that language. So let's say, I am beautiful, but you've been telling yourself your whole life that I am ugly. You're going to have an inner war with that. But when you use a mantra, like a Sanskrit mantra, Om is a Sanskrit mantra, Om Namah Shivaya is the one that I used. So, Om Namah Shivaya just means I am consciousness, but it's really, again, it's a sound vibration. So my mind and my brain are not fighting with me now when I use that. So a lot of people are familiar with the work of Esther Hicks, and so it's all about law of attraction, all that. Her philosophy is like, when you're having negative thoughts, just get to a higher vibrational thought. When you're in depression or despair, you don't have the energy for that. So I was in despair. And when I started using these tools, so I had to use a mantra, mind vehicle, a Sanskrit mantra. So my mind wouldn't immediately fight this. So I love Om Namah Shivaya. There's a whole bunch of Sanskrit mantras. I have meditations over on Inside Timer. David G is wonderful at sharing those. You can Google the heck out of Sanskrit mantras and find one that resonates with you. I loved that one. So every time I had a negative thought, I would say to myself, Om Namah Shivaya. And what happens is over time, I started singing it to myself. I started singing it out loud. Then I started singing it to myself. Mantras are even more powerful, silent inside of you. So again, it's getting into that subconscious programming. So eventually, over time, every time I had a negative thought, it would automatically start canceling those negative thoughts out by saying Om Namah Shivaya. So I didn't have to fight those thoughts. And so to this day, I was singing it in the car last night on my way home from an event. I was out really late, and I'm like, Om Namah Shivaya, just singing it to myself. And it's a really beautiful mantra. There are a whole lot of mantras. It can be simple like Om, but it's a wonderful way to begin this journey to really your true self, because all of that negativity. And unlike you, I have to work at it. I am not wired to be positive, not at all, because of my life experience. And so I actually have to consciously work at it. And as human beings, we are wired for the negative. We have a negative cognitive bias. Our brain is going to take us right down that dark rabbit hole for most people because the way we're wired.
Right.
That is an amazing way, mind vehicle. Take your mind on a higher journey, elevate by something as simple as that. And those two tools alone can transform your life.
That's amazing. And as we talked about, the cells getting the messages and going in and creating that blueprint. It's a beautiful thing because what it's doing in that blueprint is saying, okay, she's being positive. She's looking at this direction, whether it's traveling the world or whatever. She's prepping herself. We need to prep her as well. So it's going to actually change your cells to say, we need to get up and get walking. If she's going to be doing that, we've got to get her ready to do it. We've got to change her diet. She's not going to be eating potato chips, watching Netflix, and saying in that rocking chair, we need to get her moving so that she can be ready for this. This is what she's doing, guys. Get her ready for it. And
Change happens
the
at
reverse
cellular
is true
level.
too. Yes.
Everything happens at this. Our cells are listening to us 24/7. 24/7.
Yes.
We've got big ears. Our cells may be itty bitty and we can't really see them, but they got big ears.
Years. And we have a lot of them, you guys. Can you send me your mantra? Because I know
Yes. I'd love
like
to. Absolutely.
you or what.
Yeah.
I've not used that one. I do know very well. This one, it sounds beautiful. But I have a simple word that I have used for years and years and years. And it's an easy one, and it's simply dismiss. If that negative thought comes into my mind has learned. It didn't take the very first time I said dismiss. My body's like, yeah, right, whatever. And I would just keep on going, and I would dismiss it and have to really focus on that thought leaving. And over time, at this point in my life, that something negative can come in, whether it's email or a person or whatever, and I'll say dismiss, and it's gone. It's not even there anymore. And so, I mean, it's, whether it's a mantra, whether it's a word, you guys should really grab hold of something and make it your own. And it's not going to happen overnight. Even using a beautiful mantra, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to just be like, oh, she said the word. It's magic. It's the little jelly bean. Let's just make it go away. It's not. It's going to test you. It's going to try you. And it's almost like a fungus being in your body, like a Lyme disease being in your body. It's like, are you giving me permission to be here or are you not? And that's kind of what it boils down to. Do I have permission to be here? And if you're like, I'm gonna eat another Lay's potato, I'm gonna eat another potato chip, sorry. I'm gonna eat
We're
another
not your sponsor. I can tell that right now.
yeah.
Oh,
If you say that you're these diseases, these thought processes, they're looking for permission. And it's what are you giving it?
yeah, both ways. We are walking computers, right? And we're
Yes.
trying got hardwiring, but we can rewrite the software. We can really affect things, like you said, at the cellular level. And what you shared about, you said dismiss the Silva method. Jose Silva, he has a brilliant program on really changing our mind and our subconscious beliefs. So his is, I believe he uses cancel, or delete. But it's
Oh, yeah.
again back to
Yeah.
computer metaphor. Before it gets into the subconscious, what you are doing is sending a signal, no, canceling you out right now. So dismiss,
Mhm.
delete, cancel.
Yeah.
That is literally hitting this button right here on this computer saying, nope, you're not getting stored right now. And
Yes.
that's what that does.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
I
Put it
like
in the
it.
trash. Put it in the trash. Put it in the trash.
We have that kind of
Yeah.
power, and that's amazing to me. And oh my gosh, we could talk for hours.
I know, I know, I know. Well, I don't want to do that because I could do that. And I know you could do that too. So maybe we'll come back.
Hey, there are some podcasts that go on for 3 hours. I won't name names, but they know who they are.
Yeah.
And
They've done really well. I
most of
think
my
I would
listeners
have
would
to
stay.
Oh,
Maybe once we get up to 1 million listeners, you guys, we
yeah,
then we stay
exactly.
for 3 hours. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and call it. Catherine, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience who's listening? Any more steps? Anything?
Well, I think what I'd love to do is thank you for that. And thank you so much for this time and your wonderful platform and for being
Yes.
such an inspiration for all of us. I think I know we can get overwhelmed, right? With too much information. We went through a lot on the show today. And I really do believe those two steps alone that I left at the end are, if you just took that and left everything else, because, we want to share our stories so that we can show a roadmap for people that have gone through really difficult times and we're still here and we're still fighting and rising, fighting the good fight, and that phoenix rising. So no matter what you're going through, and there are no awards for trauma, there's no, like, you and I are not in a competition over who went through the worst trauma. And because a lot of women will beat themselves up and go, I didn't have a traumatic brain injury, I didn't have to go through, so I can't, I can't do what she did. Oh, yes, you can, because we're all given what we're given for a reason.
Yeah.
And that's really the most important thing, that this universe will give you whatever it is you need, big or small. Again, it's all the same as far as our own path and purpose. If you just, for some people, something that we would consider minor going through is major for them. So honor that and go, this is really difficult. I don't need to look at what Robyn went through and beat myself up that I'm struggling to get through. What, that I get angry and, had road rage today, whatever it is, these things, we beat ourselves up and go, there's no trauma awards here. So whatever it is that you are going through out there right now, honor it. If it's a struggle, honor it and know that you have the power within you to rise above it. And like you said, it's all a process. Be gentle with yourself in this process, especially as women at midlife and beyond. We need to understand there's oftentimes decades of pain inside of us.
Right.
So saying that mantra for 2 days isn't going to undo, decades of damage, but it is going to work. And think about how much time you've spent pushing those things in And it's not a linear process. So you don't need to, do it for 10 years. You would be shocked to know how quickly those things actually can be overcome as
Yeah.
we start laying new healthy, neural pathways, and we start, wiring together positive things, and you'll start seeing, it's just, you'll start feeling a little lighter and a little brighter. And then it gives you hope to keep going. And ultimately, those ashes will fall away and you'll be like, whoa, who is rising here? So we all rise from ashes, and it's not the amount of the ashes, it's that phoenix. It's all this beautiful light. And that's what you were talking about, the spirit, the soul. We have a soul, but that phoenix rising comes from that soul, and that is the divine and the spirit rising.
Beautifully said. And, there's no doubt. I did not even mention this because I got so sidetracked with your story. You are the founder of Mastering Midlife, Modern Midlife, and the CEO of Midlife Media. You have taken on a heavy duty career. You not only, talk with women, you have a whole group of women who follow you that you give tips out to. You have newsletters. You guys jump on her profile, go to her website. You're going to be amazed at the information. She is almost at 70,000 followers, you guys. By the time this thing comes out, she's going to be well past that. When this comes out, please go to her and follow her. Let's get her to 80,000. Let's get her to
Yeah,
100,000, you
I
guys.
love it. I love it. Thank you so much. And thank you for all you are doing. And I cannot wait to see the show and share the show and support you any which way that I can. And thank you all for, just listening. And I believe in you. I know whoever out there is listening right now and needs a nugget of, encouragement and hope. I want to leave you with that. You can do anything as long as you believe you can.
Agreed. Thank you so much for being on our show, you guys. And Catherine, thank you for being on our show. Thank you, you guys. And we're going to be excited to hear your progress on this and what steps you're taking. So I'll see you guys later. Thank you for being here. Catherine Grace O'Connell's journey is not just a narrative of overcoming illness, but a testament to the indomitable human spirits. Her work through Midlife Matters and Midlife Media stands as an invitation to all, especially women at midlife, to challenge the status quo, embrace their inner strength, and passionately pursue a life of purpose, health, and joy. I hope you enjoyed today's episode as we grow near to the end of season 2, but work is already underway for season 3, so no worries, and there will be a few new surprises. All of our episodes can be played from our website, becomingagelesspodcast.com, from YouTube, see the link in the bio, or from your favorite podcast app. Please consider liking or sharing this episode with your friends, and check out our affiliate links. All have been vetted and are ones that I either personally use for myself, my family, or for my clients. And each purchase goes to support the work that we do on these shows and all the research behind the scenes. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.